Sonic the Hedgehog has always been considered lighthearted and fun to play. You run fast, go through loops, collect rings, and stop the evil Dr. Eggman. But little did we know the franchise would sometimes take a darker turn. These gruesome moments would range from falling, to getting stabbed and wounded, and even murder. Fans would either shed a tear or roll their eyes at how ridiculous this 180-degree change was. Whatever direction Sonic goes, these characters still reach their demise regardless. And today, we're gonna rank them based on brutality. I'm Kyle with One Up Binge, and this is Sonic the Hedgehog Deaths, Gruesome to Most Gruesome. Before we begin, there are a couple rules that need to be addressed. First, we're only focusing on the main Sonic the Hedgehog game series. Spin-offs, such as Sonic and the Secret Rings, and television shows like Sonic X, don't count on our list. Secondly, the majority of the gruesome moments will be from Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic the Hedgehog 06. While Sonic Adventure 2 is far more beloved, Sonic the Hedgehog 06 has been labeled one of the worst games of all time. So just a heads up. With that out of the way, let's get started with our first category. These are the defeated villains, but their fate is currently unknown or simply reformed for the better. Starting out with the least gruesome, we have Chaos. During ancient times, this liquid-based life form was the loving guardian of the Chao species and protector of the Master Emerald altar. Things took a bad turn when the Knuckles clan tried stealing the Chaos Emeralds for conquest. Chaos decimated the tribe and got sealed inside the Master Emerald, thanks to Tikal's sacrifice. Thousands of years later, Dr. Eggman released Chaos from dormancy and plotted to feed him the Chaos Emeralds for world domination. However, Chaos used the negative power of the Chaos Emeralds against Eggman's orders and became Perfect Chaos. After Supersonic neutralized Chaos using the Emerald's positive energy, Chaos returned to normal and disappeared together with Tikal. Besides Chaos being reformed, it's clear that his fate is living peacefully with Tikal in the afterlife. Moving on to the Deadly Six. The Deadly Six were an alien group known for their passionate destruction on the planet Lost Hex. They initially worked for Dr. Eggman but later betrayed him. Their master plan was to use Dr. Eggman's extracting machine to suck the world's life energy. Like mentioned in our Sonic Characters Good to Evil video, these are the type of villains that were never meant to be taken seriously, other than Zavik and Master Zik. In fact, during the climax, Sonic simply defeats them and they disappointingly disappear. It was never confirmed what exactly happened to them, but since this is Sonic Lost World we're talking about, it's best not to question. Next up we have Infinite. Infinite was once a mercenary that joined Dr. Eggman's army till he was given the Phantom Ruby. Using the gem's mind-bending and enhancing powers, not only did Infinite quickly take down Sonic, but also led Eggman's forces and took over the majority of the world. That is until Sonic and the Resistance rise up and defeat him at the Eggman Empire. Upon defeat, Infinite struggled and protested that he could still fight before he disappeared. When comparing him and the Deadly Six, Infinite's fate is unknown, but there may be a hint on his outcome. Many believed that not controlling the Phantom Ruby cost him his life, and Infinite refused to accept his demise. At the same time, many Phantom Ruby clones of him were present during the final battle between the Resistance and Eggman army, so it is possible that Infinite's desperation still lives on within the Phantom Ruby's power. Even so, Sonic Forces sometimes lost track of its own ambition, so your guess is as good as ours. Finishing our defeated villain category, we have one of the most evil Sonic characters, Dark Gaia. Dark Gaia is a primordial organism from the dawn of time, and is the manifestation of night, destruction, and darkness. Like Chaos, Dr. Eggman untimely awakened Dark Gaia from its slumber and wanted to use its power to create Eggman Land. However, unlike Chaos, Dark Gaia has always desired to destroy the planet after breaking it apart during the awakening, putting Light Gaia out of commission. Gaia would even go to extreme measures, transforming into Perfect Dark Gaia. Thankfully, Supersonic and Light Gaia defeated Dark Gaia, returning the primordial creature to its slumber. While Chaos was defeated in a way that redeemed him, Dark Gaia's defeat prevented and contained an unstoppable force to keep the entire world in balance. Dark Gaia was close to reaching its goal, but its defeat was a close call. That's it for our defeated villains. We now move on to characters who gave up their life for the sake of the world. These are the Sacrificers. Our first sacrificial character is Blaze the Cat from Sonic the Hedgehog 06. In the distant future, Blaze and Silver the Hedgehog have constantly fought the flames of disaster known as Iblis. When they encounter Mephiles, he claims that killing Sonic would save their future. Blaze didn't even bother advising Silver to reconsider his actions, despite her knowing who Sonic is to begin with. Her only story contribution is at the end of Silver's story. When Silver failed to seal Iblis inside him, Blaze decided to take his place and sealed herself into another dimension as an act of sacrifice. It may have saved Silver's future, but Blaze's sacrifice soon became meaningless once Solaris was erased from existence. Blaze may be alive, but her sacrifice wasn't worth it. Our second and final entry in the sacrificial category is Tikal. Out of all the clan members, Tikal stood out for her kind nature and principles of peace and harmony among all living creatures, especially with both the Chao and Chaos. When her father and the tribe planned to invade the Master Emerald Shrine, she constantly begged them not to, even during the most dire situation. Once Chaos became angry and nearly killed all of the tribe, Tikal chose to sacrifice herself by sealing both her and Chaos inside the Master Emerald to keep the world safe. Sure, her life-threatening decision was sudden, and her lack of hindsight was still partially responsible for Chaos's reawakening and the destruction of Station Square. Nevertheless, Tikal's heart was still in the right place, and her sacrifice was a noble one. Our next section is made up of a classic death, falling from a greater height. These are the characters who fell to their demise. The least gruesome fall goes to our favorite anti-hero, Shadow the Hedgehog. Keep in mind, we're discussing his role in Sonic Adventure 2, and you'll quickly understand why. After Dr. Eggman freed Shadow from his 50-year slumber on Prison Island, he, and later Rogue the Bat, assisted Eggman in finding all of the Chaos Emeralds to reactivate the Eclipse cannon on the Space Colony Ark. Originally, Shadow wanted to use the cannon as an act of revenge against all humanity after his friend Maria's death, and believed revenge was her final wish. That is until our Deus Ex Machina character in the form of Amy reminded and made Shadow realize Maria's true wish, to save humanity. With that, Shadow helped Sonic fight and defeated the Bio-Lizard. As the Ark reached the atmosphere, both Super Sonic and Shadow used Chaos Control to warp the Ark back safely into orbit. Sadly, a worn-out Shadow started falling into Earth after making his promise. This was a sad moment, where Shadow risked his life to save the world after understanding his true purpose. With that said, it's easy to guess why this fall isn't as effective as the other entries. In Sonic Heroes, it was revealed that Shadow had survived the fall, yet he suffered amnesia. There were also hints that Shadow may be an android. It wasn't until Shadow the Hedgehog where Dr. Eggman confirmed that Shadow is the real thing. You just had to wait until the final boss to hear it. His subsequent appearances aside, Shadow's fall is still highly memorable as a sad and noble death. Going from the character to the game named after him, we have the antagonist Black Doom. As the ruthless and tyrannical leader of the Black Arms aliens, Black Doom has one objective: to enslave the human race as food for his army, even though he lacked care and pity for his own kind. With Shadow being biologically created from his own blood, Black Doom constantly ordered and exploited Shadow to get what he wanted. This includes collecting all Chaos Emeralds to initiate Chaos Control. Like father, like son, indeed. Black Doom's plan almost succeeded when the Black Comet was implemented onto the city and nearly paralyzed everyone for his offspring to eat. Once Shadow discovered the truth and broke free under his control, Black Doom transforms into Devil Doom. At the same time, Shadow transformed into Super Shadow and fought him for the world's fate. In the end, Devil Doom falls to his doom, no pun intended, into the rooted city. Out of all the falls on this list, Black Doom's death fall is the most basic. We see him collapsing down towards the city, but he doesn't appear again, even with the Black Comet destroyed. There's no chance that Black Doom would come back. But, like the game itself, it may be best to put the past behind us and move on. The Bio-Lizard is the last contender with the most remarkable fall of all. Before Shadow the Hedgehog, this giant, grotesque lizard was the prototype for the ultimate life form. While the prototype had some unique features like regeneration and self-reproduction, it was dangerously flawed. The creature constantly grew in size, acted primitive, and had a vulnerable life support system. Gerald even went as far as programming the Bio-Lizard into preventing anyone that would interfere with the Ark's collision course. Even when Shadow tried to hold it off, the Biolizard used Chaos Control to merge itself onto the tip of the Eclipse Cannon as the final hazard. Luckily, both Supersonic and Shadow managed to defeat the final hazard in the nick of time. While Devil Doom's death was a simple fall, the Biolizard's takes the cake, not just because of its poor health, but falling from space felt far more graphic. In fact, when you think about it, its body may have also incinerated once the Ark reached the Earth's atmosphere. That's one piece of space logic that Sonic Adventure 2 kind of got right. As opposed to Shadow's fall, the Biolizard earns the title for the most gruesome fall. Finally, we've reached the darkest and most gruesome deaths. In 5th place, we have Princess Elise's father, the Duke of Solana. While he is not prominently featured in the game, his demise is a sad yet stupid setup for Solaris's eventual rebirth. He was once a scientist experimenting with Solaris's power as an attempt to travel through time to see his deceased wife and correct his past sins. However, the project backfired and exploded, which mortally wounded the Duke while protecting Elise in the process. When a time-traveling Shadow and Silver arrived, they split up to chase after Mephiles and Iblis, who were on the loose. Thanks to the Duke's help, Shadow managed to steal Mephiles. As for Iblis, Silver captured it, but the trembling Duke needed a vessel to keep Iblis in. With no other choice, the Duke sealed Iblis inside Elise. As sad as the dying Duke's goodbye to Elise was, warning her not to cry so as to avoid releasing Iblis was a huge stretch in terms of the story. Of course, with Solaris erased, the Solaris project never occurred. However, it was never established if the Duke is still alive or not. Regardless, this is a pretty dark way to go out. Some of you knew this was coming, so let's talk about Sonic. We know Sonic had on occasions survived a fall with pure luck. However, there was one dark moment in Sonic the Hedgehog 06 that took a step further. Throughout his adventure in Solana, Sonic had saved Princess Elise countless times from Dr. Eggman. This includes one moment when he traveled back in time, just before she and Eggman died of the egg carrier crash. Just as the two were heading back to the city, Mephiles suddenly distracted them with a Chaos Emerald. Within seconds, Mephiles impaled Sonic, thus killing him. Not only did it make a crying Elise release Iblis, but it achieved his goal of becoming Solaris and sending everyone in a timeless void. All hope seems to be lost for our blue hero, but there was another way to bring him back. Do we even need to explain how? It kinda speaks for itself. After defeating Solaris, Sonic and Elise traveled back in time to the beginning when Solaris was just a flame and decided to extinguish it forever. Just like the Duke's death, the events of Sonic meeting Elise, including his stab to the back, were pointless. Then again, there's no denying for a moment that Sonic being stabbed made it even darker than anyone would have expected. Our bronze medal of gruesome goes to E-102 Gamma. As the second unit of Dr. Eggman's E-Series robots, he was the most loyal and successful at fulfilling certain missions. However, once he started noticing how Eggman treated his brethren and becoming friends with Amy, Gamma decided to revolt by freeing his fellow units. After fighting his upgraded brother, E-101 Beta, near the end of the story, Gamma was fatally shot by Beta right before he exploded. Gamma refused to heal himself and voluntarily died to set the Flicky inside him free. What makes Gamma's death so dark is his tragic story. His transition from a servant to a rebel made him grow a conscience and a logical mind. Comparing to other robot characters like Metal Sonic and Omega, Gamma's journey was out of compassion or remorse for his actions against Sonic and his friends. In the end, rescuing his kind led to a grim but noble end for him. Still, he accepted his fate once his mission was complete. Fans still remember his death as one of the most tragic Sonic stories yet. The silver medal for most gruesome goes to Professor Gerald Robotnik. Aside from being the grandfather of both Maria and Dr. Eggman, Gerald was a scientist that dedicated his intellect to benefit mankind and had strong moral codes. When it comes to his projects, the results would depend on one's point of view. Gerald spent a lot of time researching a cure for Maria's incurable disease. His project Shadow experiments were purposed for medical examination in hopes of curing Maria. He even once struck a deal with Black Doom to create Shadow, but secretly developed the Eclipse Cannon that would eventually destroy the Black Comet. Unfortunately, after the gun raid and Maria's death, Gerald became vigorously insane and imprisoned on Prison Island until he was executed. As brutal as it sounds, his death was more practical than you think. It was a radical change from an ambitious man to an absolute madman that would do anything for his granddaughter. Though he still loved Maria, his vengeance on humanity took a toll on his sanity. He programmed the Ark to crash into Earth, set the Biolizard to guard the Eclipse cannon, and even mind-altered Shadow's memories into making him think Maria wanted revenge. Though he got his justified sentence, we can't entirely blame him for what he was trying to accomplish. But that is nothing compared to our number one pick, and it's the same person who triggered his insanity. At the darkest end of our spectrum, the gold medal for most gruesome death goes to Maria Robotnik. She was Gerald Robotnik's granddaughter and Shadow the Hedgehog's best friend. Maria was suffering under a terminal disease that Gerald worked erratically to cure by creating the ultimate life form for medical experimentation. However, when Gunn infiltrated the space colony Ark, she and Shadow tried to escape. When Shadow was all set to go once they found the escape pods, one of the Gunn soldiers behind them fatally shot Maria. Using the last of her strength before saying goodbye, she pleaded with Shadow to protect humanity for her sake and give everyone a chance to be happy. So why is Maria's death by gunpoint more gruesome than her grandfather being executed in prison? It's actually quite simple when you compare these two. While Gerald had his good intentions of saving Maria, his experiments were still unstable. Also, his revenge caused more harm than good. On the other hand, Maria was nothing but a pure, innocent, and very sick girl. She was born and raised on the space colony Ark with a lifelong dream of visiting Earth, despite being forbidden to leave due to her disease. Shadow was also the closest thing to a friend she ever had. However, being killed by a soldier with no hesitation or remorse made it more gut-wrenching. It was understandable why Shadow thought revenge was her final wish, though again, that was Gerald's doing. In the end, Shadow still fulfilled his promise, and Maria is eternally grateful. And Maria will be fondly remembered as Sonic the Hedgehog series' most gruesome death. But let us know in the comments section if you agree with our ranking. Was there a Sonic character death that we forgot? Let us know in the comments section below. Remember to hit that notification bell and binge our most gruesome playlist, where we break down the most gruesome moments in your favorite games. But most importantly, stay wicked.